Hikers saw that this neglected sheep could barely stand, so a shelter begged for experts to save him. When an Australian hiker found Chris the sheep, they were horrified to see that he could barely stand. His wool had grown so out of hand, in fact, that it was weighing him down. In 2015, a hiker was out walking on Mulligan's Flat, a protected nature reserve on the edge of Canberra in Australia. This area is known in particular for its vast array of wildflowers, with approximately 150 species to be found there. And the object of the hiker's attention was unusual to look at. Nearly the size of a small car, it appeared to resemble a fallen cloud or a heap of cotton balls. However, as the individual investigated the mass, they realized that it was grazing on the grass. It was then that the walker realized they were looking at a sheep, albeit not like they'd ever seen before. The animal had seemingly been so neglected that his fleece had grown to epic proportions, meaning the sheep could barely walk under the weight. And understandably, the hiker was worried about the sheep's welfare. The animal, the passerby thought, may not survive the Australian summer under all its wool. As a result, then, the individual decided to reach out to the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in Australia. Fortunately, the animal welfare charity took the sheep, later named Chris, into its care. Meanwhile, it was speculated that Chris may have been roaming the bush alone for as long as 6 years. The sheer size of Chris's mane wasn't the only concern. Vets were worried that the massive fleece could be hiding infections or parasites. Furthermore, if the sheep had fallen over in the wild, he would have had no way to get back on his feet and likely would have therefore died. So in order to check Chris's overall health, the RSPCA appealed for a shearer online. In 2015, then, RSPCA Chief Executive Tammy Van Dang told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, or ABC, it'd be great to get someone here immediately so we can assess any serious medical condition he might have as a result of this. Van Dang added, such a large fleece can actually make it impossible for Chris to go to the bathroom. We don't know how bad the damage could be, however, because this has been building for a while. Then, following the RSPCA appeal, Ian Elkins offered up his services. Elkins is a big deal in the Australian sheep shearing world, having won the national championship for the practice on 4 separate occasions prior to encountering Chris. Taming Chris's wool could certainly prove tricky, as the weight of the sheep's epic fleece was dragging his skin down, making cuts a possibility when shearing. To make matters worse, all that time in the wilderness has made Chris extremely fearful of humans. Speaking at the time, Van Dang explained to ABC, Chris has obviously not been around people in a very long time. It's probably going to take a couple of goes before we get it all off of him. And in the end, the sheep shearing was completed without incident. The process did, however, break a number of world records, including the lengthiest professional sheep shearing session ever at 45 minutes. But it was Chris's excessive wool in the end that was the real star of the show. By the end of the process, the wool tipped the scales at 89 pounds, about 8 times more than an average merino sheep would produce. The previous record holder had been a sheep called Big Ben. Before that, Shrek the sheep had reigned supreme. Like Chris, Shrek had been found neglected, roaming the New Zealand countryside under an almost 60-pound fleece back in 2004. Following the record-breaking shearing, Chris's fleece was put permanently on display at the National Museum of Australia in Canberra. The exhibit is intended to represent the history of the wool industry in the country. It also shows the importance of animal welfare. But although Chris's wool had found a worthy home, Chris himself initially had an uncertain future. Then, after hundreds of adoption offers had come in from the general public in September 2015, Chris was finally sent to live at the Little Oak Sanctuary in Braidwood, New South Wales. However, while Chris ultimately got his happy ending, his story arguably reveals some problems with the ways in which humans treat their fellow animals. Thankfully, in this case, Chris was able to thrive at Little Oak Sanctuary. When we first took him to the farm, he was really shy, but he's become really cheeky, Van Dang told the Canberra Times in 2016.